Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Hitting the Field podcast. Today we are continuing our GOAT debate series, and today we have a very special one in celebration of The Last Dance premiering tonight. Michael Jordan's story about his final season with the Bulls. We are bringing Michael Jordan to the stage here at the Hitting the Field podcast in our own GOAT debate with none other than LeBron James. So, Michael Jordan versus LeBron James GOAT debate. Can't wait to get this going. Now, I feel it's only appropriate to represent the LeBron side first with Mr. Okelo Pena. Okelo, how's it going today?
Feeling great today, Jeremy.
Excellent.
Been excited about this debate, and I can't wait to represent GOAT James in the flesh.
Absolutely. And then on the other side of the ring, we have Mr. Ross Bernstein, Mr. Basketball at HTF. Ross, how you doing today, brother?
I am doing swell. I'm very excited to watch The Last Dance tonight. I basically am already sitting on the couch just waiting. I'm ready. I feel like, my numbers speak for themselves. I'm ready for MJ, GOAT, faded away. You know who it is.
I do know how it is. So this is how the debate will work. I will give each of Ross and Okelo 2 minutes to provide an opening statement, and then during that 2 minute period, the other person cannot talk or interrupt. But then after that, they will have the opportunity to talk and interrupt as much as they would like and challenge each other on why their player is the GOAT. And I will step in as the host, Jeremy Brenner, and I will ask questions if I need to. But ultimately, it is them two trying to debate who is the GOAT of basketball, LeBron or Michael Jordan. And I will decide at the end after their arguments have done. But before that, they will each have a chance to provide a closing statement as a lawyer would in court. That's basically how this is, guys. It's the court of basketball, literally. It's basketball court, and you guys have to defend your GOAT. Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I guess we will start in alphabetical order. So with that, LeBron James is first. So, Okelo, you have the floor, and your 2 minutes starts now.
All right, so why is LeBron James the best basketball player? It's very simple to that. The numbers don't only speak for itself, but this man has literally done, if not some of the most incredible things throughout the history of the NBA. This man came back from a 3-1 deficit and nobody has done that in the history of the NBA. Now look, you can argue, yes, MJ has 6 championships, LeBron has 3. But Michael Jordan, he got all the scoring titles, all that, but LeBron, he's been the most complete and the most dominant player in the NBA. This man has been on so many other teams. And not only to the fact has he not only paired up with Dwayne Wade, Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, he can literally put a team on his back. Since the day that he came into the league, LeBron James has been an absolute force. It took a long time for Michael Jordan to become who he is. If it wasn't for Scottie Pippen or if it wasn't for Phil Jackson, who knows how many championships Michael Jordan would have won. It's been clear that LeBron can do it on his own. He is one of the best basketball players of all time. He's been from top to bottom, start to finish since he entered into the league. And to me, like, MJ's numbers, they're respectable in their own right, but the game of basketball has evolved so well, and I think even in any era, you can put LeBron in. He's not as ball dominant. He can take a backseat, and to me, LeBron James just quintessentially, he can even take on MJ one-on-one and win. LeBron James is one of the best to ever lace him up, period.
All right. Ross, your 2 minutes starts now.
Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. I could obviously hit you with the very simple facts. I don't know if you knew this, but he might have had 2 separate three-peats going 6-0 in the finals. And in none of those finals did he even reach a Game 7. He's a dominant defensive player. Some people don't even think he thinks he's a one-sided player. 9 defensive all teams. Also leading the league in steals 3 separate times. He is a 14-time All-Star. and he was the Rookie of the Year. He is a 3-time MVP and 11-time All-NBA player. He is a complete fundamental monster. There is no one during this time that could stop him. He is a championship stopper. There is amazing players such as Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing that have never won a championship simply because of this man and his dominance. It's easy to say that, he took a while to get ready. Yes, he had no one. He had to wait for Scottie Pippen to develop as a player. But in those seasons, he was still a very, very dominant player. Even in one of those series against the championship Celtics, he averaged 42 points. So even when he wasn't winning those championships, you could argue that his stats were still better than LeBron's. And the fact that LeBron went 3-6 in the finals, yes, it is very impressive that he made it. But Jordan going 6-0 is untouchable. No one will ever get to that. No one will ever see that. And the fact that he dominated a whole generation is another reason why this man is the GOAT. He played amazing teams like the Trailblazers, the Sun, and the Jazz team back-to-back. You could argue should have won at least one of those two series, but he didn't even get it to a Game 7.
15 times.
The clutchest player of all time, the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan.
All right, Michael Jordan. All right. So now you two have made your opening statements. Now I'm going to toss over the baton to the two of you. You can pick each other's arguments apart and develop your argument into the winning one. So I'm going to let y'all have it. I'm going to go on mute for a little bit and just sit back and listen.
You want to go first, Okelo? I'll let you go.
I appreciate it, Ross. But okay, we got to talk about a little bit. You mentioned all of the teams with Michael Jordan, yes, the 6 championships. But may I remind you that LeBron James went to 8 straight NBA finals with 2 different teams. You talk about Michael Jordan's championships. Remember, Jordan retired in those wingspan. And then remember when he came back, he couldn't even take the Bulls all the way to the finals, and Shaq held them. Now, look, I agree. The teams in that era, it was low-scoring, dominant basketball. And look, and I think personally, MJ, like, you could have been very close to losing a lot of those series. But, LeBron James, he didn't need a partner to go to most of some of his finals. It was just luckily that he had Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade in that time in Miami, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. And if he didn't suspend the season, he would have been on his way to win his 5th MVP and more or less likely been on his way with the Lakers to win a championship. And LeBron has also surpassed MJ not only in regular season points, but also playoff numbers. LeBron is the all-time point-scoring leader in the postseason. You cannot tell me you can't even remember some of LeBron's clutchest moments in the playoffs. The block that won them the ultimate 3-1 deficit. You can't tell me that even some of his moments in Miami, some of the games against the Celtics.
I understand that you said he didn't need a partner. He needed three people. You could argue that a lot of those the 4 teams for the Heat, where he went 2-2, and as a Heat fan, that hurts personally because he should have won all 4 and completely choked in the Mavericks series. You could argue that Jordan's second three-peat, that was the most dominant team of all time. That three-peat, insane. I won't even argue that, especially the 72-10 team. But those first three-peats, that team was not as good as a lot of LeBron's teams that he had when he had Kevin Love.
He still had Pippen. He still had Horace Grant.
He had Horace Grant, who was averaging not even 13 points a game. And Pippen didn't really come into fruition maybe until his second championship. Obviously, he had to get stronger, and the bad boy Pistons beat him a couple times before he even made it there. But it's hard to argue that LeBron didn't have the help. The first Cavs series were in, 2006, 2007, when they played the Spurs, all credit to LeBron. I can't even remember a lot of those players on that team. Granted, he got swept in that series, which it's still impressive that he made it. But the fact that Jordan took this team to 3 straight championships is amazing, and beat teams like the Trailblazers, and then they beat the Suns one year. It's hard to say that LeBron didn't have a lot of people. You could easily argue it when his whole team got injured before the finals, and he had a great team, and that's unfortunate. It is what it is. I can't change what has happened. I can only see the finals record, which is still 3-6. But the fact that he went 2-2 with the Heat is insane. That team was the best team every one of those finals and should have won all those finals, and he did not show up to a final, and that alone could kick him out of the GOAT conversation in that Mavericks final. It's very hard to argue that that's one of the worst performances we've seen by a star player with that high expectations ever.
But you look at that, Ross, and look look, you could easily say, oh, the Mavs series, that could honestly kill the debate right here. But you look at the time frame that he built over the course of it. LeBron has been a 3-time Finals MVP, and look what happened in 2016 when they came back from a 3-1 deficit. I don't want to always bring up 3-1, but he beat, if not the Warriors, the greatest regular season team in NBA history. If LeBron can do that, if he can take away, he has really changed the game of the NBA, not with the way he's played it on the court, but also off the court. Teams need to go and build teams in order to stop LeBron James because he is a one-man wrecking machine.
No,
you couldn't do that to Michael Jordan. You couldn't do that.
Jordan was still the most dominant player on all those teams. And although LeBron had 3 Finals MVPs, Jordan had 6 Finals MVPs. You know why? Because he won 6 Finals.
Needed to go get anybody to stop Jordan. They just tried to stop him with what they had. I mean, the Knicks in the East, Pat Riley in the Miami Heat, Reggie Miller in the Pacers, they didn't really upgrade anything. The Warriors had to go get Kevin Durant in order to stop LeBron James.
Respectfully, what did they do? Not going to get Kevin Durant? He offered himself to play there. I don't know if they said that to stop him, but here's another argument I'll make for Jordan. Something that LeBron did not do is shut down other people's legacies, and I'll explain that. Jordan's era, no one else got a championship. No one else touched one. Players like Barkley, like Ewing and Reggie Miller never touched a championship. Dirk still got his during the LeBron era. Kobe still got those last 2 during the LeBron era. The fact that Jordan shut down the 90s and said, hey, look, I know all these great players, these Hall of Famers. That's great. Go crazy. You get second place every year. LeBron still allowed these teams to get this championship. Granted, that Warriors team arguably better than any team that ever played. I still think the Bulls 72 team, 2-10 team would have beat them, but okay. The fact that he shut down an era just shows that the 90s is the Jordan era. Although 2010 is known for LeBron making the playoffs and going to the finals, it's not known for him winning the finals. Most people know him for
he still got 3 chips out of it and 8
Very
straight.
Good. Hey, but Jordan got 6, and I hate to bring that up every time, but it's hard not to bring it up because this game is about winning championships, and I don't want to argue that all day because obviously there's no argument between who's the more clutch player in the finals and who's the better finals player. One's 6-0, one's 3-6, and I don't want to argue that all day.
I want to pose this question to you guys. Obviously, we have the 3 versus 6 argument, which definitely helps MJ's argument. But I want to ask you guys this. Let's flip MJ and LeBron's eras. Let's say LeBron plays in the 90s and MJ plays in the 2000s up until now.
Okay.
How do their careers change? Does MJ win more? Like, how much of the success that each of their players had was an effect of the era that they played in?
LeBron is one of those generational talents, Jeremy, that I think personally you can plug him in any era, and I think he would just still continue to have the great success that he does. And you have to look at that era in 1990s basketball. It was more defensive. The courts were smaller. The three-point shot wasn't that deadly of a weapon to use on offense as it is in LeBron's era today. So to me, LeBron would just be still dominant. I think personally he could have even won more championships if he was playing in the 90s because his game is not just only based off of score. He can assist. He can play around the defensive ends. LeBron is a multi-talented player. Granted, Jordan is as well, but to me, Michael Jordan is more of a ball hawk to where LeBron can take that back seat and you can see somebody else pad up their stats as LeBron can maybe have a triple-double night, 20 points, 10 rebounds, and a couple of assists. And still be able to get it done. LeBron would be more accomplished and, despite it would be smaller with the courts, LeBron would take advantage of every situation on there, especially against the big men of those eras like Olajuwon and Ewing, Charles Barkley. They can't touch him. LeBron's got that.
I have to disagree highly with Okelo. I don't think LeBron was ready for this hand-checking era. I don't think he's ready for that contact era. He complains anytime he's touched now. I don't think he's ready for those big men. LeBron didn't really have to play a big man in maybe the last 6-7 years. The last great big man he he even faced was probably Dwight Howard was the last amazing big man like that. I don't think he was ready for the Twin Towers for the Knicks. I think he would have complained this whole time. And the only really big difference with this NBA is the three-point shooting. LeBron is a 34% three-point shooter. Jordan's a 33% three-point shooter. It's touching hairs, while Jordan's a much better free throw shooter. Mm-hmm. I think if he goes to the line as many times as players are going now, it's not going to be close. He'll average 40 points a game. And to argue that the passing and all that ball hog stuff, Jordan's not as great as an assist man. Jordan has averaged 5.3 assists, LeBron 7.1. But that's not what Jordan's role is. Jordan's role is a scorer. But let me give you a quick stat. Mm-hmm. In the 88-89 season, he had to play 24 games at point guard, right? In those 24 games of point guard, he averaged 30 points, 11 assists, 9 rebounds, and 2.5 steals. And there was a 1-month stretch where in 11 games, he averaged 10 double-doubles with 7 consistently. He could pass. He could move the ball just as well as anyone else. Am I saying he's a better passer than LeBron? No, that'd be silly to argue because LeBron's doing it for so long. But if you ask MJ, like, hey, I need you to facilitate these games, and a lot of those games for the first 3 quarters, he was just facilitating. He wasn't even trying to score. In the 4th quarter, he said, all right, it's time to take over. I think Jordan, with these softer players and a more finesse game, it fits him even more. The reason he wasn't able to win those championships against those Pistons is how aggressive and strong those Pistons teams were. It would have been very hard for LeBron to compete with them. Although LeBron is one of the strongest players, I don't know if he's a tougher player than Jordan. Jordan put on a lot of mass, put on a lot of muscle, and that's how he was able to beat those teams. So I think the old generation would greatly hurt LeBron's game. I don't think he's ready for those handshaking rules, and I think Jordan would only flourish. With the amount of free throw attempts he'd be attempting per game in this NBA.
So Ross, my question is this though: if MJ played in this era, I'm gonna pull back one of LeBron's best MVP years, and this was during his Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron's last season with the Cavs, he averaged 29 points, 7 rebounds per game, 8 assists, and he averaged at least a block per game. You're telling me that MJ would gradually improve during that time frame? Because you say, like, yes, with all those intangibles, with the handshake rule and all that, but you look at the way that offenses are spread in the NBA, how would MJ work in another system other than the triangle or any other system than LeBron where you can plug and play in anything and he can make it work?
Well, like I told you, if you plug it, his game and those Bulls teams were all evolved around him shooting. He needed to shoot. When the team said you don't need to shoot is when he was averaging those triple doubles. In the 91-92 season, he averaged 6 assists a game at 30 points because those were teams that he needed to pass the ball more and he needed to get – because that's when Scottie Pippen had his 21 points per game season. So he saw, hey, Scottie, you're doing this. You're coming up. I need to pass the ball more. 6 assists. Jordan obviously is a more – it's maybe not ball dominant, more of a ball hog player. I can give you that because he's a scorer. He's the greatest scorer of all time, and there's no way to argue that LeBron's a better scorer. But to think LeBron doesn't hold that ball for maybe 15 to 16 seconds per play, which I don't mind because he's the best player in the world, but he's still holding that ball. And the offense, it's still the LeBron James offense. It's not the Frank Vogel offense. It's not. It was Eric Spoelstra was more of a ego controlling team. It was his job. Control the egos and be a good coach. It's still LeBron's team. So to argue, oh, he can't be a plug and play, LeBron is the plug. He is the team. He says, this is how we're going to play. We're running a pick and roll, give me shooters. Jordan didn't say that. Jordan never said that. Jordan said, I am the team. I don't care who you give me. Give me Ross Bernstein. Give me Okelo. I don't really care. I'm going to drop 40 points in their head and we're going to win the championship. I think he could play with almost more people than LeBron could because he's a scorer. He could do whatever it takes to win. LeBron needs a system for LeBron.
You say that, Ross, but like that's the main point I wanted to needle because we said all about the great. You've mentioned all the things with MJ and how he could do this, but need I remind you, like and now I feel like I need to bring this up. For throughout those 6 championships, he had one coach with one system. You take him out of what he had with Phil Jackson, and he was basically nothing. And you mentioned that the spark plug, LeBron James, he can maximize the offense. Michael Jordan needed just the triangle to be successful. Now, isn't that crazy how that offense is now outdated and gone, and how easily
the NBA changed? The NBA completely changed. Of course, it's gone. There's a spread offense now. You have to spread the floor 5 ways. The triangle is not going to work. But it obviously LeBron chose to leave a coach like Eric Spoelstra. I'm not going to mention the Cavs era. The fact that he made that team is amazing. He chose to leave Eric Spoelstra. He didn't. No one kicked him off the team. He left Eric Spoelstra and decided I want to go back to Cleveland with championship, which he did, which is great for him. But to say, hey, Jordan had one coach, why would I leave this coach? I just won 3 championships. I'm going to go back. And if you don't, and obviously those Washington 2 seasons are something never discussed because it was just a money play. I think he just wanted to get some reps in, to get some money. But you obviously stick with the one coach and the one system because it's working. You don't leave and something's working. It's a hard argument to make because if LeBron won all 4 of those championships in Miami and didn't go 2-2 and then stayed and won 2 more, would you say, oh, he just played for this offense, he played for one coach? You don't leave a winning coach. I can't tax someone for leaving the greatest offensive coach at that time. It's hard to tax someone.
Well, Shaq did, and he wound up still getting a ring out of it when he left the Lakers to play in Miami. So
yeah, he chose to leave. He could have easily stayed, but that's also a Kobe decision. Kobe basically said, from at least what we know, hey, it's gonna have to be one or the other. I want to be the dominant player, and he played with the Miami team, which was another great team, which was coached by Pat Riley, which is another great coach.
All right. So yeah. I'm gonna send this into a different direction here. I want you guys to. I'm gonna give you guys a quick assignment, and I'm gonna give you guys like a minute to do it. I want you guys to give me your top 5. And this is going to be very telling to see where your argument truly lies. Who you believe are the top 5 in this particular argument. Obviously, I know who your number 1 is. Include that as well. But I want you to give me 2, 3, 4, and 5. Is your adversary also in that top 5? He doesn't have to be. All right, it will just give me.
I hope he is.
I hope so too, because I think that both of them deserve to be at least in the top 5. But I want to see where you guys think your competition lies. So send me a DM on Skype where we are recording this, and I will get to that as soon as I get them in. But for now, I'm going to take this time to preview what we've got going on at Hitting the Field. It's the last week in April, I guess, or the second to last week in April. Quarantine has made me forget dates, but anyway, it's the most jam-packed week of the year for Hitting the Field. It's draft week. Yes, that's right. So we have our annual draft show this year, virtual, on Thursday night at 8 p.m. It's our big project that we work on all year, and that takes place Thursday night at 8, so I hope you guys tune in to the draft, but also take a look at our YouTube channel while the draft is going on. We'll be recapping and we'll be commenting on the draft throughout the night, so be sure to check us out there. But before that, we have a whole lot more in store. It's our last week of the semester, so we are saluting our seniors all week long with our senior show on Monday. And we have our finale of Might I Add coming on Wednesday. We have some Hitting the Crew episodes with our seniors also coming up this week. And because it's the beginning of The Last Dance, for the next 5 weeks, the plan is to feature recaps of The Last Dance every Monday from the Sunday night. So 3 of us from Hitting the Field who watch The Last Dance, we will come on for the Monday episode, and we will recap The Last Dance for you guys. So that will come out tomorrow, Monday, and we've got so much in store this week, so be sure to check us out on YouTube by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Hitting the Field. So I've got Ross's top 5. Okelo, do I have yours yet? I have Okelo's right here. Now. Okay, all right. I've got Ross's top 5. Okay, and I have Okelo's top 5. Interesting. Okay, so I'm not going to reveal these yet. I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold on to these, and I'm going to reveal them when it's best. When it's best for the podcast. So I'm going to let y'all. So we talked before I went on my little break. We talked about the importance of staying in one system. About how LeBron Okelo, you argued that LeBron is more talented because he could do it in multiple systems, whereas Ross is arguing the absolute opposite. Um, so the thing with that, for me at least, is you know in the 90s when Michael Jordan was playing, there were fewer transactions. You didn't see players leaving teams a whole lot. So everyone really stuck with their team, and it wasn't really common for players to, star players to change teams very often. And, in today's NBA, it's almost as if every year a huge player is changing teams. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that argument, it's tough to tell because I think while Michael Jordan and LeBron are both great players in their own right, they both played in very different styles of basketball, and I think you guys are really bringing that up a lot, and it's changing my opinion even about it too. It's maybe not changing, but it's molding my opinion a little bit more. It's that these two players, although they're very good in their outright and they're being compared a lot, there are a lot of differences that you really can't compare. I mean, Michael is a shooting guard, so he's a scorer, but
Mm-hmm.
LeBron is more than that. You can even argue that LeBron plays a positionless game because of how the league is now, but even before then was playing he was facilitating what was going on. So, I mean, does that make him a point guard? Does that make him, what does that exactly make him? But anyway, I want to ask you guys more about the competition that each player faced. Who
Mm-hmm.
played in a more competitive era versus the opponents that he had to play? Was it LeBron and, having to face, the Spurs and the and and the Warriors, or was it Michael Jordan having to play that Jazz team and the Magic Johnson Lakers towards the beginning of his title runs? Which player endured more competition?
You want to start,
Ross,
Caleb?
I'll give you the floor. I'll give you the floor, Ross.
Okay, I appreciate you. It's hard to say who faced the harder competition. I would say it's Jordan, but not by a ton. I'll just give you some quick stats. In playoff series versus 50-plus win teams, Jordan went 20-7. LeBron went 13-10. He played 4 less teams and lost 3 more games and won 7 less. Versus 60-plus win teams, Jordan went 7-2. LeBron went 3-6. And the final games record was 24-11 for Jordan. LeBron 18-31. Now, if I had to give the one hardest team that they both faced, it's still that Warriors team. I think that Warriors team is harder than any team that Jordan faced, but not by a ton. I think that Jazz team is still one of the most underrated teams. Jordan's first championship was versus that Lakers, which is still one of the greatest teams of all time, although Magic Johnson was on the decline, and I'll give you that. Jordan was the MVP that season, and you could argue that he was winning it. The next year, the Trailblazers, another amazing team led by Clyde Drexler. It's hard to say who was really the better team at that point. But once again, it didn't even go to 6-7 games, so we'll never really know who went the better team because Jordan won it. But the next season was against Charles Barkley and the 62-win Suns. Charles Barkley was the season MVP that year. That was a much harder team than they had to play the previous season. And once again, only to 6 games. Some argue that was Barkley's really big chance to win his only championship, and Jordan once again shut down that whole era and took it away with the John Paxson game winner in Game 6. And then that Jazz team, they had to play back-to-back after they played the Supersonics. Those Jazz teams were arguably better than those Jordan teams those 2 years. It was insane. They had Karl Malone at the MVP, and they just had such a great system with John Stockton and him in the pick and roll. Those teams were not meant to not go to 7 games. They were not meant to get shut out by this era, but they did.
But
They did because Jordan completely dominated this era.
Are those teams better than what LeBron had to face?
They were better than basically every team besides the Warriors team. They were better than those Jazz teams. Were definitely better than the Mavericks team. They were better than the first Spurs team, and they were better than the other 2 Spurs teams that they had to play those 2 seasons.
So
I don't know.
Admirable?
It's hard to argue. It's hard to argue that they were better than the Warriors because that Warriors team obviously went insane. It's hard to do that.
So what's
and they
more
went
admirable?
7-3-9 one season.
2 wins against that Jazz team, or 1 win against arguably the best team to never win a title, the Warriors, in 2016?
The Warriors, I mean, like, look at them, 73 wins. And like I mentioned, the fact that Kevin Durant had to come in and for LeBron to not be able to get over that, but still push his best, and now, mind you, this was now a Phil Jackson disciple S when he was playing with the Bulls, Steve Kerr, and you look at the offense that they were running. But I wanted to bring back something with Ross. He talked about the Spurs, and that needled me because when LeBron faced the Spurs the 3 times that he did, the first time in Cleveland and the 2 times in Miami, the first time, you couldn't tell me that roster with Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan in his prime, okay? Like, they were, if not one of the best teams, if not, they were one of the dynasties of the 2000s that were not only great defensively, but they can win in so many different ways to where the Jazz did in the 90s with just John Stockton, Karl Malone. That was just the 1-2 punch. Greg Popovich finds different ways to win. 2014, you get Kawhi Leonard. He was a little bit unknown. He was a first-round draft pick, yes, but look at what he did. That began the ascension of Kawhi. Those Dallas Mavericks team, you still had Dirk Nowitzki. Now, granted, it was a hodgepodge mints, but they still were able to get it done. The Eastern Conference teams, I feel like I want to bring up because Ross, you didn't mention any of the competition that Jordan had to face in the 90s from the East. For LeBron, he had to face the Pistons at that time, Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, the Bad Boys Pistons 2.0. He had to face the original Big Three Celtics, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, okay? And then he had to go face a New York Knicks team, Carmelo, Amadi Stoudemire, okay? He had to face tougher competition, and some of those teams pushed him to the limit. Those Big Three Celtics teams gave him a lot of worry. That's why he was like, you know what? Let me go get Wade. Let me go get Chris Bosh, and let's see how things wind up differently. And you look at what he produced over that time. Like, you can't tell me, like, Michael Jordan wouldn't have a problem right now going one-on-one against Kevin Garnett, dealing with Ray Allen's three-point shooting down low, Paul Pierce handling, facilitating, and also being a deadly weapon in the stretch.
That's something I'll never know because they never play one-on-one. I could have the same argument with LeBron. He'll never be able to play a big like Hakeem. He'd get dominated in the post, or Patrick Ewing, a strong player like that. Maybe against a Karl Malone, a strong player like that. It's hard to argue. In my argument, I gave you the numbers, the 50-win teams. Jordan had a better record and played more harder teams. I don't remember the names per se. They played Reggie Miller and the Pacers. They had to play that Knicks team a couple times in the East. But when they got to the finals, you could still argue, besides that Warriors team, those Jazz teams gave any team LeBron paid a run for their money. I'm never going to argue that the Kevin Durant added to the Warriors is not the hardest team that either of those teams had to play. I cannot argue that because it'd be stupid for me to argue, because that is one of the most insane teams of all time. And they were able to come back from a 3-1 against the 73-9 Warriors. It's amazing. I never will argue that LeBron's not amazing, hasn't done amazing things. Is he as amazing as Jordan to me? No. Jordan's final record is 24-11. LeBron is 18-31. It's very hard to argue those numbers. Jordan played the same amount of 60-plus win teams in the playoffs. Same amount of 60-plus win teams. Jordan went 7-2. LeBron went 3-6.
Mm-hmm. There's a difference, though, Ross, with wins and then the actual teams that are put together. I want to bring one team in particular that Kevin Durant was on, the original Thunder Buddies, the Oklahoma City Thunder, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kendrick Perkins, and the core that they had. Now, that was, if I'm not mistaken, a 50-plus win team. I think they were on the borderline of 60, and they were expected to crush LeBron in the finals after what the performance happened.
They were not expected to crush LeBron in the finals. That is not true. I remember watching those series. They were not predicted to crush. That is insane to say they were predicted to crush.
Weren't they predicted to win the series after
I don't believe they were. They were a very young team that was still up and coming. Obviously, if you gave that team the same roster 3 years later, there's a crush. I see the crush. This is before a lot of the team's primes, right? James Harden was still the sixth man of the year. You didn't even know that he was going to be as dominant as he is now. Kevin Durant, what was he, 22, 21? Something like that, which means Russ Westbrook might have been 23. They were before their prime. It was a young team. Everyone said this team will be a dynasty that will compete with this Heat team for years. But that one season, they were not predicted to crush. They were too young to crush, and they got crushed. It was a 4-1 series. They didn't even go to 6 games. LeBron was a man possessed. He was going to win his first championship that year. You could have put anyone in front of him. It was his year. But to say that Thunder team is better than a really experienced Jazz team is hard to say. Maybe not talent wise and name wise, because those players went on to be amazing things. But at the time, that team was not as good as the Jazz team.
No disrespect to John Stockton, Karl Malone, if not two of the greatest, if not John Stockton is the greatest point guard in the NBA in NBA history
and
with all of his
Jeff Hornacek, another great shooter.
Oh yeah, Jeff Hornacek, another underrated point guard. But I'm just saying though, like you mentioned, yes, those players, were young in their prime, but a young KD who was, if not a year or two away from claiming his first MVP.
Exactly, a year or two away.
But wasn't Kevin Durant still at the time, if not, you could argue, a top 10 player during that year?
He was a top 10 player. Really? Top 10. A top 10 player does not beat LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. A top 10. You need a top 3.
You're telling me like a Hall of Famer like Karl Malone. Now, obviously, exclude the fact with all the ringness and stats and stuff. You're telling me like the big man from Louisiana Tech can handle the athleticism that LeBron can do? Because Karl Malone arguably didn't have to play against athletic type players like LeBron.
But like we said a million times, it's a different league. It wasn't his job to run up and down the court and stay at the 3-point line. It's his job to be a tank in the middle. Can LeBron go and attack him in the paint and dunk him on every play? I don't think so. I think Karl Malone would have hand-checked him to death, slapped him out the air. Maybe a Bad Boys Pistons could have done the same thing, would have slapped him out the air, and LeBron would have no idea what to do.
That's what happened in the finals was with the Lakers. That was what happened when Malone was with the 04 of the Lakers.
That was 04. That was years after his prime. That's hard to see. And the league already started changing at that point. Talk about 90s basketball. There's just obviously like this argument is hard to have per se because completely different league, completely different positions, and once again, like every GOAT debate, we'll never know because these players didn't play these people. But it's silly to make the argument that you couldn't keep with the Kevin Durant. We don't know. If I could hand check Kevin Durant and I'm a 6'11" stud like Karl Malone, 6'9" stud like Karl Malone, who knows what would have happened if I could hand check him and hit him at the air and be aggressive. I don't think Kevin Durant's ready for that. Kevin Durant couldn't even bench 225 when he came into the league.
I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm going to be honest. So far, I thought this debate has done nothing but confuse me more, which is a good thing.
It's a hard debate.
It's really tough. It's really tough.
It means you guys have done your job in defending your guy. But I'm hoping that this will finally will help me come to a decision. So I'm going to reveal your top fives now, and I think this will this news revealing who your top five is respectively will make your arguments make a little bit more sense. So I'll start with Ross here. All right. So Ross has Michael Jordan number 1. With LeBron at number 2. Number 3, Magic Johnson, who he had to play that first finals against in '91. Then Larry Bird, number 4, and Kobe number 5. So that to me is a very it's a normal top 5.
It's very vanilla.
It's what a lot of I would like if I asked 100 basketball analysts, these 5 would come up very often.
Yeah, it's hard. I try to think of the most non-biased opinion I possibly could.
Yeah. Okay,
that's what I was going to do.
This top 5, I will say, is very revealing to your beliefs.
Well, it was based off of what I was thinking more or less of players of what of this era that I've been more like used to watching, and my mistake that I forgot to put in Kobe. I apologize for that, but I was just looking more on the aspect of who has been some of LeBron's best opponents, and some of which have been, if not some of the best players of all time.
So what I'll ask you is this: you can I'll let you amend this list. Where would you put Kobe right now? Just tell me right here.
I put Kobe I'll put Kobe number 3 on that.
All
list.
right, so Kobe number 3. So you have LeBron number 1, Tim Duncan number 2, Kobe number 3, Shaq number 4, and KG number 5.
Yeah, but I'll alternate Kevin Garnett in this list, and because I know I put in Allen Iverson, despite the fact that he didn't win a ring.
So you're telling me is Michael Jordan?
No.
is no greater than the seventh best player to ever play the basketball.
If we're talking around the era of
We're
2000s
talking all
basketball,
time.
Jeremy.
We're talking all
No,
time.
all time. All time.
Okay. Then let me rephrase my list. Then I'll do LeBron number 1, MJ number 2, Kobe 3, Tim Duncan 4, and then I will do Shaq number 5. That's my top 5.
Well, now you've completed the original assignment. Congratulations.
So I apologize.
If you did not have Jordan in your top 5, I could have left it. I think I would have left. I think it would have been a Jeremy Okelo podcast.
I can't disrespect his airness. Like I said, I was just thinking more or less of 2000s basketball, but for all time, of course, I had to put MJ on this. There's no argument. I would be crucified as a basketball fan if I put MJ any lower than in the top 5. Maybe if I nudged him to number 3, I'd be stoned.
So now you've both now made the argument that LeBron is 1 and MJ is 2, or MJ is 1 and LeBron is 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we started out this debate more so about just their talent as a player in itself, where Michael Jordan was more of a scorer, LeBron a better passer. Then we kind of got into the argument of which player, the eras in which the two played, where LeBron played in an era where arguably there was more depth in terms of talent. You could argue where he had to play not only the Warriors but the Spurs teams and the Mavericks and the Thunder. But you can also argue that the Jazz are up there with one of the better teams that any of the two eras saw that fell short of a title. But now I want to get to the meat of the argument. Why is A better than B, or why is X better than Y? So I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes now to give a closing statement. Actually, no. Before I let you guys go to a closing statement, is there anything you two want to add before we go to a closing statement, or like a point that you want to argue with the other?
Yeah, I could just you go first. You got it.
Oh, sure, Ross. Well, I was just gonna mention about like overall, like in terms of the way that players in the era defined in terms of changing the game, and other than what LeBron has done in terms of the way that the NBA was at the time with the super teams to where it's gone in now to where it's back to a sort of new unknown. Where LeBron is. LeBron has, if not been an impactful player, I wanted to bring something Jeremy brought up where he talked about, players, sticking out with their old teams, and continuing on as there weren't a lot of free agent moves, maybe 1 or 2. But LeBron has changed the NBA to where players can go to where they want to go. And in the era of an NBA salary cap and those type of things, LeBron has basically changed the way that not only players can play and where they want to play, but also how teams are built and how you play around, guys, and, the way that players can guard up one-on-one against LeBron. And even, I know this is kind of out of the GOAT debate, and I know, Ross, this would be a big point for you, but even just on terms of commercial success of players, for all-around greatness, and you look at what LeBron has done off the court as well in terms of the greatness that he's done, the I Promise School, as well as, look at what he's done with Uninterrupted and all the great things that he's continued to do. LeBron James has, gone above and beyond not only the success on the court, but off the court as well. And, to me, it's looking both ways to the way that he's impact basketball, both on the court and in terms of financial success as well.
All right, I'll never argue that LeBron's not an amazing person off the court. He's done amazing things. He's a far better person than Jordan is. If that's not what the GOAT debate goes. So you said he started the Big Three movement and he changed the NBA, saying players go where they want to go, right? That could completely destroy the argument that Kevin Durant going to the Warriors is kind of a soft move, because that's what LeBron started. He started this whole go where you want, go to the best team movement. Respectfully, he started that. He had hey, look, you reap what you sow. You had a fight exactly what you built. You built this big three saying, hey, go to the super teams, make super teams. Guess what? Then you got whooped by a super team. It's hard to argue that I have to feel bad for LeBron that KD did this and beat him all these times when LeBron really started that. It's hard to say that commercial success Jordan brand is insane, and Jordans are just the top shoe company in the world, right? So it's hard, but that's obviously not in the GOAT debate. If we want to argue another thing, defensively, Jordan was a 9-time All Defense first team. LeBron was 6. LeBron was 6-time All Defense first team.
And MJ did win a Defensive Player of the Year.
And won Defensive Player of the Year with a 3-time steals champ. It's very hard. People always like to say Jordan was an offensive player. Yes, that's where his dominance lied, but he was still a dominant defensive player, and he loved guarding the best player on the team. He often asked them, hey, can I get the best player on the team? I want to shut them down, and then drop another 40 on his head. Now, so I just think, yeah.
Actually, because I appreciate what y'all are saying, but it's kind of getting away from the debate. But actually, now that you brought this up, it's given me time to craft one last question.
Okay.
So, my question here is this, and this is for both of you, okay? What does LeBron need to do to become the GOAT, Ross?
Oh man, it's
because it's hard. He's still in his career, so he has time.
He's amazing.
He's not retiring anytime soon necessarily. But what does LeBron have to do to become better than Michael Jordan on your list?
I think he needs to get at least 1 or 2. I think 2 more championships would be hard. It's hard to say what he could do because of the I don't want to say damage, but the 6 losses in a final does. But if he gets to 11 finals and wins 5 of them, it'd be hard. And there's a good chance by the end of his career he'll be the top scorer ever in the NBA. So if he has put in the most points in the NBA, has done this for 20-something years, and has won 5 championships, I cannot argue that. It's just right now, but what we've seen, he's still not there. Obviously, he's projected to do all these things, and we'll have to see because, Father Time is still undefeated. 2 more championships, greatest scorer of all time based on just overall points and just longevity, that could get him the GOAT argument.
Yeah. And Okelo, when did LeBron overtake MJ on your list?
The minute he came back from the 3-1, it's a continuing theme that I hate to continue to bring apart, but I'll also side into that and to when LeBron not only passed MJ once in the playoff numbers, which LeBron stands as now, which will only continue to incline, and I don't think any player coming up in the NBA will ever break that record in terms of his playoff points all time, but also the night where he faced my Denver Nuggets where he was able to surpass MJ 3rd all time in scoring. LeBron, and it's so amazing that even while he's aging, 35 years old this year, he was on an MVP type level. Granted, last year was an off year. LeBron has been the GOAT from that point on, and one game I'll look to was when he dominated in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics, where he had over 40-plus points. That game, you just saw a different look in his eye, and I just said, there's just that look, and there's that one signature game that rocket ships up greatness. Yeah. That Eastern Conference Final matchup against the Celtics did, and it wound up being the first of his many championships.
Yeah. All right, so now it is time for each of you to give your closing arguments. I'm going to give you 2 minutes each because Ross went first in opening, right? Or am I getting that mixed up?
I did.
Okelo went first.
Okelo went first in the opening argument. So, Ross, you're going to go first in the closing argument. Right. You're going to get 2 minutes starting now.
So we've argued this whole argument about if this played in this era and he played in that era, but I can't argue that. You played in the era you played in. And in Jordan's era, he shut down every single all-star Hall of Famer because he was the best player. Hakeem Olajuwon is only known simply because, and how greedy is simply because Jordan took 2 years off. The fact that he dominated a whole era is a huge point. LeBron did not. Jordan had 10 scoring titles. LeBron had 1. A better scorer. And when he had to pass, in the short span that he was a point guard, he averaged a triple-double with 10 of 11 games in a span being a triple-double. He can do it. Obviously, 2 3-peats. Insane. 6-0. And once again, never went to a Game 7. You didn't even get a chance to beat him. It was over before he started. A defensive juggernaut. Often wanted to guard the best player on his team with 9 all-defensive first teams, LeBron 6. He was also amazing at steals, having a 3-time steal champion and also a 1-time Defensive Player of the Year, something LeBron has never done. Another thing that he did was just being overall one of the best fundamentals of all time, and dominating in an era where they didn't chuck up a million threes. Like, we could give the era argument: what if Jordan chucked up as many threes as players do nowadays? You could argue he could average 40 between that and the free throws. He had to play in the hand check era. The hand check era is something LeBron will never have to deal with because the NBA
30
has
seconds.
changed. You can't if LeBron got hand checked, I don't want to know how he react, because when he's blowing on a little bit, like a little one of those, he loses his mind, gives the ref a quick shrug. So I don't think he's ready for that. LeBron is 3-6 in the championship, ladies and gentlemen. Jordan has played more 50-plus win teams in the playoffs, more 60-win teams in the playoffs, and has done better. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jordan, the GOAT.
All right, Michael Jordan. Thank you very much, Ross. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okelo, you're going to take us home
right.
here. Your 2 minutes starts right now.
Greatness is defined by when you're up against your absolute best. And Ross, you've mentioned a lot of times he's never had to go to game 6. He never had to go to game 7, excuse me. And LeBron has, yes, he's been to a lot of finals where he's had to go to game 7. But I really want you to think about this. Look, I want you to really remember, other than maybe the shot against the Cavs for Michael Jordan, what other heroic Game 7 can you remember? When I look at LeBron James with his historic Game 7s, I look at even the games before that, like how he was able to save himself, lob out the pass with Bosh out to Ray Allen for the 3, send it to Game 7, and then take over Game 7 against the San Antonio Spurs. How he was able to stay clutch, the legendary block on Andre Iguodala, which will live in highlight reels forever in NBA history. When you take a look at clutchness and clutch gene, Jordan had it, yes, but in the most pivotal times when your back's against the wall, LeBron has proven time and time and again that his greatness comes when his back's against the wall, and he's proven no matter who's he's up against, he will put up a damn good fight. He can still drop 50. Aside from points, regular seasons and all that stuff, LeBron has gone into many teams, and he's been able to turn them into a winner. Michael Jordan, granted, he's played for one team his entire career, and with if not one of the greatest coaches of all time, but multi-talented, can do so many things and ascend great players into where they are now.
30 seconds.
Who knows how Kyrie Irving would have been? Who knows what Anthony Davis would have been if they hadn't played against LeBron? He's made players better around him into making them superstar talented players. LeBron, Lego James, has done all in his NBA time, and I will say this, no matter how long he plays, 20, 25 seasons, he will still continue to dominate, and it'll only just begin more of him being the real number 23.
All right. So thank you guys. I'll be honest. This debate, I leave with more questions than answers, but that just means that you guys did a good job. Also, what's with the French?
I don't know.
Why are we talking French?
I'll give you I just remember.
I felt like LeBron was.
My friend would just always say Michael Jordan, and he just would say it so many times that it's in my head. I never got his reasoning, so I don't know, but it's just something that's stuck in my head.
It's with LeBron. I don't know, LeBron James. Or I can even do the meme LeBron James. I feel like it just rolls off the tongue. I think maybe it's just a little French kiss of sweetness, of greatness.
That's fair. All right. So I will say this. I think that globally, Michael Jordan is considered the greatest of all time by a lot of people. So I think that Okelo, you had your back against up against the wall today. But I think you did a very good job defending LeBron, because I think a lot of the discussion that we had revolved around eras. But I think what you did with your argument was you kind of squashed that argument. And you said how it doesn't really matter. And because at the end of the day, as much as Michael and LeBron are seen as, parallels, they're very much opposite. And that has a lot to do with the era. I think that we came to the conclusion that, LeBron played in a more difficult era when it came to the talent around him. I think the game has evolved more to create better players. Internationally has also created better players. You see guys like in the 90s, you really didn't see teams like the Spurs coming together from all over the world trying to create. So the talent of basketball has evolved as time has progressed. So I think that Okelo, you did the best job with that part of the argument. So what it really came down to me though was overall, mechanics and overall, what a player has to do on the basketball court. And I think what's important here is defense. And Ross, I think when you made that defense argument, you won the debate. So I'm going to give this win to Ross Bernstein and Michael Jordan. I think that's the one place that separates Michael Jordan from LeBron James. And ultimately, offense wins games, defense wins championships, and defense wins the GOAT debate today. So I'm going to give this win to Ross Bernstein and Michael Jordan.
Bravo.
But it was very close. It was very close. It was
a great argument. These are two great players.
I'll admit, when Ross pulled out defense, it was a little bit scary. But to be honest, Jeremy, I was thinking, LeBron's overall clutchness on defense because, the block, will forever live in infamy.
That's true. And that's a good argument. But also, Michael Jordan's got plenty of those highlight reel, timeless highlight reel plays on his own. So, I give props to Ross. I give props to Okelo for today's debate, getting me real amped for tonight's premiere of The Last Dance.
Man,
I know I'll be watching. I know the two of you will. Perhaps we'll get you on one of these Last Dance recap pods that we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks. Thank you guys for coming on.
No problem, Ross. It was a pleasure to do this battle with you, man. Congratulations on the victory.
Appreciate it, man. Great point. You were up against the wall. You were giving LeBron, and it's not easy. But two great players. No disrespect to either of them. LeBron, I know you're listening. I love you. You gave me some of my best memories in Miami. I might have torn down all my posters when you left, but it's water under the bridge now. We're good.
MJ, you're still one of my favorite players of all times. I'll still rep your airness. Your sneakers have always been one of my favorite fashion statements, and your game. My dad has watched you. My mom as well. You're still one of the best. We still talk about your greatness in the house.
Excellent. So thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Hitting the Field podcast. Again, we've got a lot in store this week for you all. Tomorrow, we have a double feature. First, with our senior show, we say goodbye. We'll sort of say goodbye to our seniors who have been contributing to the show for the better part of 2 and 3 years. So be sure to tune into that. We also have our Last Dance recap pod from tonight's first 2 episodes. So be sure to tune into that as well. And on Tuesday, we will have the Hitting the Crew return with an unknown guest. We haven't confirmed the guest yet, so it'll be a surprise for you guys. On Wednesday, we will have the Might I Add finale where some of our seniors go over their favorite UCF sports memories, their favorite UCF sports memories they experienced on campus. And on Thursday, it leads up to our final mock draft pod and the NFL draft show at HTF. We will be live on our YouTube page at 8 p.m. Eastern when the draft goes live, and we will be on all night long to go through the draft with you guys. And on Friday, we'll be recapping the pod with the podcast of our own. We've got a lot of draft coverage. We've got a lot of Last Dance coverage. Just because coronavirus stops the world doesn't mean it stops hitting the field. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We got a big week in store. Hope you guys tune in for that. And until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.